Deputy Barry Cowan.
Thank you, Lascan Corda. Taoiseach, last month the water bill went through the Houses, and the bill for families, depending on their circumstances, range from 160 to 260, and as we know, and the rebate from your own department and the costs associated with that and so forth. But we see from yesterday's legislative programme that the government are publishing another water services bill this session. Of course, this Dáil wouldn't be the same without a water services bill each session anyhow. But no one seems to know what's it about. Taoiseach certainly didn't yesterday, nor was it mentioned by Minister Kelly during many of his speeches before the end of last year. Flat charges, as you know, will be short-lived and probably be changed by 2018, but the government are not shouting from the rooftops in relation to this issue. There's no floor or ceiling on the amount of water people can use, and people will be receiving relief from your department to allow the government try to pass the Eurostat test in March. If the government is to pass the test, then you say it will be able to borrow money to invest in infrastructure, something that would indeed be welcome, because over the past 4 years you've actually invested less than the previous government had done before water charges were ever talked about. And despite the political propaganda that you and your colleagues profess, that is in fact factual. What I want to ask you today is about the reports yesterday that despite the fact that Irish Water has spent 500 million installing water meters, that their lifespan is 15 years. And that's despite the fact that you'll be paying 42 million a year back on this borrowing. We've never seen the contracts, we've never seen the detail in relation to the awarding of those contracts, so it continues to be a secret affair, the whole management of Irish Water by government and the company alike. The manufacturer's design life of a water meter, we were informed yesterday, is 15 years, and the meters in Ireland won't be utilised at least until 2019, we're told. So you're spending 500 million installing 1.2 metres, and that works out at €416 per metre for items that have a lifespan of up to 10 years, because of the fact that you won't be using them in the first 5 years. So what people will be paying for when they're told they're paying €60 for water is €42 for a water meter. And that represents 70% of the bill for a single adult and 26% for a bill of a family home, 2 or more. So do you believe, Taoiseach, that this is a responsible use of money, given the fact that you and your government continue to cut services left, right and centre? Do you think it's a responsible use of money when the hospital are inundated, the hospital accident and emergency services are under such pressure, when community care for the elderly is almost non-existent, when home health powers are being slashed, and when house adaptation grants for the elderly and the disabled, and people who are applying for them are being told to wait 3 to 5 years before their application can be processed?
Thank you, Deputy.
And meanwhile, back at the ranch, good old Irish Water and yourselves are spending 500 million on meters.
Thank you.
For 1.2 million homes that will possibly have a lifespan of only 10 years, considering the first 5 will be defunct altogether. So what value is that? Or what assurances have you been given, or what confidence can you express in this House that no funds will be expended in the future replacing such meters, considering in the past where responsible local authorities conditioned developments to install water meters less than 3 or 4 years ago were subsequently told by these characters that they were obsolete?
Thank you, Deputy.
So let's have a bit of clarity for once and for all this year in relation to this issue, or will it be prolonged and be your nemesis, which it no doubt will be when it comes to Eurostat test in March. But maybe before that embarrassment, you might be able to inform the House what the story is.
Well, I suppose, first of all, I should start by wishing everybody a Happy New Year. But it's a bit disappointing that you didn't get a bit of a break over Christmas to actually read up on Irish Water, because, as you rightly acknowledge, the new charging structure is a gross of 160 in relation to an individual living on their own in a house, an adult, less, as you rightly pointed out, the water conservation grant that the Department of Social Protection will pay of €100. So that's a net net of €60. And secondly, for a family, it's a gross charge of €260, less the €100 water conservation grant. Now that compares, if I may say so, very favourably with the €400 a year that was Fianna Fail's proposal in relation to water charges. And I suppose it slipped your mind, but that's actually what you put on the table and what you planned in terms of people in the country. But can I get to the more important point? Our antiquated water system is not fit for purpose in terms of the needs of every man, woman and child in this country, and the needs for employment and the needs for investment and growth in the economy. Now, as I understand it, Fianna Fail were once a party which supported public investment and employment into the infrastructure of this country. And when you manage to lose the banks, you seem to manage to lose your taste for actual investment that the country badly needs. Can I say to you again, as we start the year, there are 42 points in this country in which raw sewage is being pumped into rivers, lakes and beaches. If that doesn't concern you, it concerns most people in the country, and particularly the people who have to live near that situation. The water charges which have been set out are reasonable. In relation to the water meters, and it feels these days like Fianna Fail is basically looking to identify anything and everything it can to actually denigrate the people who work in water services in this country and the people who are committed to providing clean water for the population of this country and for investment. The actual story in relation to water meters, to quote one expert in a daily newspaper today, echoed in all of the media, if you had the opportunity to read the stories, Deputy, which I'm sure you have, is that it will take, in due course, something around 5 minutes to replace a meter, and it will cost about 50 million. The expected lifespan is, in terms of the guarantee, in terms of the work which has been carried out, is a minimum of 15 years, a minimum of 50 years. In fact, based on the experience in other countries, it is likely to be significantly longer than that. Now, I don't know if you've ever actually looked at what the water meter setup is, but the only thing that will have to be changed is the actual meter. Experts indicate that that will take something like 5 minutes. It will be at a very low cost, and many of the meters will go well beyond the indicated guaranteed lifespan of 15 years. And so what the Deputy is concerned about, to be honest, is a total ball of smoke. You know, you're just concerned. Your concern ought to be with clean water for the people of the country and sufficient water to provide for the industrial, economic, tourism and agricultural needs of the country. Deputy Cowan, as the spokesperson on environmental issues, I'm sure you are aware that Dublin and the Greater Dublin area is living on the edge as regards water supplies. We know what happened some years ago in County Galway and in Galway City, when there was, because of the situation in relation to water quality, we actually had one of the key tourism and agricultural regions in the country all but closed down because of the lack of clean water and safe water to drink. Now, if Fianna Fail is happy to bring people in Ireland back to that era, if that's their objective as we start out in 2015, you have moved very far from what your party once stood for.
Deputy Barry Cowan, supplementary question, please.
Thanks. New Year, same old story. That lazy, predictable answer that we've heard since this sorry debacle began over 2 years ago, when you sat idly by a cabinet and allowed the wastage that ensued in relation to the costs associated with this ridiculous project. You sat idly by, and your colleagues. You spent 85 million on consultants that you didn't know anything about, but you sat idly by, not knowing what was going on around your cabinet table. That's not a ball of smoke. 500 million you've spent now on water metering is not a ball of smoke. The 50 million, almost a year, that you're paying towards servicing the costs of that is not a ball of smoke. I asked you a question. You failed to answer it. But you're good at that. But you're going to be held accountable whether you like it or not. You have no guarantee in any contract that I've seen or anybody in this chamber has seen in relation to the installation of water meters lasting beyond 15 years. None whatsoever. So don't try and tell me they'll last 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years. You don't know, no more than I do. That's the ball of smoke you're talking about. Now, I asked you, that being the case, and the spending associated with it, and to park that to one side and consider the cuts and to consider the debacle we have in our hospitals and in our primary care, in our care for the elderly, in our community care, and in the home help hour situation. Do you think that's money well spent? Do you think you can stand over this while people cannot get the care and assistance they need and they want in their homes in order for communities to prosper in some shape or form, despite the fact that you've abandoned them in relation to commitments you made to rural areas and so forth?
Thank you, Deputy.
So don't try and tell me it's a ball of smoke. I am here on behalf of the constituents I represent, along with my colleagues and others, who wish to tell you for the umpteenth time that this has been a debacle of massive proportions, and it continues unabated, and the secrecy associated with it continues too, because you cannot guarantee that those meters will last one day beyond 15 years, nor can the manufacturer. So don't try and tell me the 50 million you're spending every year is a ball of smoke in the costs associated with, when you can't guarantee you'll have to spend another 500 million to replace them. But that's not the question I asked you. The question I asked you, how does it sit with you, that being the case, and the lack of information in that realm, while aside from that and parallel to that, the issue in relation to hospitals and emergencies is prolonged.
Thank you. Right,
where's the value?
Thank you. Sorry,
Well, I think it's ironic that Fianna Fail would have the nerve to come in here on a morning when the governor of the central bank is downstairs, when the governor of the central bank is downstairs retelling the very sad story of how Fianna Fail chose to expend 34 billion on two failed financial entities, Anglo-Irish and Irish Nationwide. 34 billion.
Look, sorry.
So
Deputy.
let me. Well,
sorry,
he was throwing figures around. So if he's going to throw figures around, let's look at the big figures.
Sorry, please. Taoiseach has the floor, and I want the same respect for everybody here.
So let me come back to the main point that you're asking about. You are concerned that over their lifetime there will be some replacement in relation to Irish water meters. What's the purpose of the meters? The purpose of the meters is to do what you have called for on successive occasions, and in fact everybody across this House has called for. It's to stop the situation where up to 40% of expensive treated water in this country actually goes to waste through leaks. Now, for decades, people on all sides of this House, the Labour Party and Fine Gael included, have asked that the fixing of leaks be prioritised. It is not possible to find and fix the leaks unless we have a structure of identifying the leaks. And secondly, the water meters will provide the mechanism for people controlling their use of water and in fact conserving water, which we need to do as a country. The cost of fixing these meters per Irish Water, when the meters come up for renewal and they are expected to last a minimum of 15 years will be roughly 5 million a year, take 5 minutes to fix and cost up to about 50 per unit. Now, all I can say is that's in line with best international figures in relation to these matters.
Thank you. I now call Deputy Mary Lou MacDonald.
Sorry,
could we have order, please? Order. Deputy Mary Lou